Welcome to Age Well Washington County. I'm your host, Andy Wallace with Washington County Behavioral Health. Well, the holiday season is upon us. And if all the advertisements, songs, and media are to be believed, the holidays are the happiest time of the year. We should all be feeling nothing but joy and love and have nothing but goodwill and happiness in our hearts. But let's get real. The holidays may be some of the most stressful and lonely times of the year, especially for older adults. Aging may present some unique challenges to how we experience the holidays. On this episode of Age Well Washington County, let's talk about some of those challenges, as well as some practical tips for managing them. Joining us today are Cami Larson, therapist specializing in working with older adults at Sequoia Mental Health, and Melissa Thompson, Center Manager at the Hillsborough Community Senior Center. Welcome. I'm really excited to have you both here.
Thank you for having us.
It's going to be a great conversation. So Melissa, how might the holidays be different for older adults?
Yeah, a lot of folks, it's happiness, it's a time for joy, it's a time for celebration and spending time with family and friends. It's also a time of heightened loneliness, and as we age, we lose friends and family members either through moving or passing away, and so it is a time that brings up a lot of different types of feelings.
Cami, what differences do you see in working with older adults during the holidays?
With older adults, therapy is often concentrated on periods of transition. So I see a lot of people who may be more displaced during the holidays compared to in the past. There is a lot of concentration on transitioning from maybe traditions that people experienced for a long time to finding a way to adapt those to fit a difference in lifestyle. I see people trying to navigate absences of others and learning to grieve and process the transitions that they may be experiencing in their own lives.
There's a lot in both those answers, so let's start with talking about relationships. For older adults, really for all of us, there's a holiday expectation of togetherness. Spending time with friends and family, and something you both alluded to. Those friends and family may not be around in the same way, or they may not be around at all. Cami, how may that be challenging for an older adult?
It can be challenging to adjust to those changes because they're not something that's often discussed. There's not a lot of information provided about how to navigate that change or how to find a new identity. Often we are assigned these unwanted identities. We might have new labels such as somebody who lives in a residential setting now, or somebody who lost their spouse, or somebody who is no longer able to travel. Maybe your family moved away. And so we have to be able to navigate these new identities that might be unwanted, and coming with that are lots of different feelings.
Do you find yourself needing to give your clients permission to kind of advocate for themselves, to state what they need? Is that part of what's going on?
That is one of the hardest skills to develop, is recognizing yourself as context and seeing yourself as also valuable and important and willing to take time to identify what is important to you. It is hard to take a moment to acknowledge yourself in all the bustle of the holidays, especially when it's often centered on giving or doing things together and being together. When that is no longer applicable or even changing in the way that it's applicable, we have to be able to check in with ourselves and develop the skills to identify what we may be feeling and learn to work through that.
Melissa, how have you seen the older adults that you work with cope with grief and loss?
Yeah, some of our folks have identified a new sense of purpose. Folks decide to volunteer for different opportunities, whether it be at our senior center or at their church, or different opportunities in the community that means something to them. We've seen people kind of take folks under their wing as people have passed away or have moved away. They've been able to support each other in ways that friends can, to where it becomes their own family.
So Melissa, so much of our holiday experience is tied up in our traditions. How have the participants you work with at the Senior Center been successful in adapting those traditions or even creating new ones?
Some of our folks have met new friends and brought in different traditions from other people's families. There's a group of individuals who have taken on some of the traditions of each other's and keeping what's important to them, and then alternating houses and locations that they celebrate the different holidays at. So it's never on one person to cover all of it. It's people bring a dish, or people bring a game or something that has mattered to them or has brought them alive in the past, to be able to carry that forward and introduce people to a new tradition.
You have anything to add to that, Cammie?
Well, when we think of traditions, we typically have a reason or a person that those traditions center around. And it can be helpful to find something that recognizes or honors that person, and then also choosing to adapt it with the new people who may come into your life.
Let's talk some more about relationships. We all have that family member or friend with whom we may not see eye to eye with, yet we find ourselves in situations where we're spending time with them. Cammie, do you have any tips on how to prepare for that or deal with those maybe difficult people that we still somehow love?
Yes, my recommendation would be to plan ahead, identify what the barriers may be, create new boundaries that help respect where things start to feel a little bit more uncomfortable. So maybe you typically spend the whole day with your family watching movies, but only 3 hours of that is really enjoyable and happy, comfortable time. So perhaps creating an amendment to the expectation or creating a plan for what time you will leave and who will take you home, or creating the boundaries that you need in order to make sure that it's a good time and not something that you're just coping through.
Having an exit strategy just in case.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
What about knowing what your hot button issues are and avoiding those? Any tips around that?
It's important to identify any conversation topics that are particularly triggering to you. You can identify ahead of time that those are off limits, and if somebody brings them up during dinner, then maybe you suddenly need to go get a glass of water from the kitchen. And that's okay. Just explore what is important to you, what has happened in the past, identify a plan to address that in the moment prior to even arriving at the event.
Good idea. Good idea.
I've had to practice, I'm uncomfortable talking about that right now, and trying to change the subject and if needed.
So it's okay to practice those skills beforehand, and maybe that's advisable.
It is advisable. It's okay to practice and have an idea ahead of time, because sometimes in the moment you freeze and maybe you don't know what to say. And having a plan in place can help you react in a way that you've already rehearsed and are aware of.
So thinking about being social, getting out and doing things, this time of year it's cold, it's probably rainy. I know it's hard to get motivated to get out of the house a lot of times. And we see, especially with older adults, the isolation and loneliness, it's a serious problem. Melissa, what strategies would you recommend, or have you seen work for your participants at the Senior Center in staying active and staying connected?
I think there's different levels and different perspectives for individuals. Some folks like to get out and about with a buddy. Some folks would rather stay in, but sometimes that isolation does happen, and some of the strategies that you can use is calling a friend, calling a family member, like setting up a consistent time with somebody that means a lot to you, to be able to have those conversations over the telephone or over a video chat, whatever folks are comfortable with. And then, if you are able to get out, find things that you enjoy doing. Find things at your community senior centers, at your church, or other local organizations that you find enjoyable and that you find within your budget and that you're able to afford and participate in.
What are some of those activities going on at the Hillsborough Community Senior Center that might be representative of some of the other larger activities that
Yeah,
people can?
we have a lot to offer, and it ranges in the cost too. So we have free opportunities to participate in mahjong, Mexican trained dominoes. We have a lounge area with a library for people who would like to be a little more quiet and not as engaged, but still have the opportunity to chat with people. We have a community puzzle set up for folks too. We also offer lunch 4 days a week. People gathered around the table, and the conversation that happens around there is absolutely fascinating. We also offer fitness classes, and not just at our center, but the other facilities with Hillsborough Parks and Recreation. There's opportunities for people to participate at any level.
And I know the senior centers in Beaverton and Sherwood also have robust fitness options for their participants as well. So, yeah.
And most have scholarship options, is that right?
They do. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And if none of those are for an individual, contacting the Oregon Senior Peer Outreach or the Oregon Loneliness Line are also good resources if you prefer to talk to somebody from the privacy of your home.
Those are great ideas. Those are really great options for staying connected and reaching out and getting some support. Absolutely. Well, you mentioned budget. And part of a lot of folks' holiday stress is around money. You know, there's an expectation for buying gifts and entertaining. Yet a lot of older adults, especially, are on a fixed income. Can we do any practical tips for managing financial stress during the holidays?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the plan ahead. It can be included all in your comprehensive plan. And you want to identify what you can comfortably afford ahead of time, have an idea of what that looks like so that you can create the traditions or the gift giving around your comfortable budget without putting yourself out during the holiday season. And I believe, Melissa, you had a good idea that your family uses that respects that.
Yeah. My grandfather, before he passed away, he would send all of the grandchildren ornaments, and so we'd all get those in the mail and open them up Christmas Eve. And then my mom has given us Christmas pajamas, sets of Christmas pajamas for all of her kids and grandkids. And so again, we open that up on Christmas Eve, and no matter where we're at financially or state-wise, my mom lived in Wisconsin for quite a while, and so sending those out, we still had the chance to open them up all together and spend some time virtually when they weren't in town, and then celebrating with watching movies or making cookies and getting ready. So just one of the things that we've always kept up on were the pajamas.
And were you always in person when you did those traditions, or did you participate virtually as well?
Virtually, yep. There was a time where we were 4 different states, and so being able to watch a movie all together and just celebrate virtually to what we could.
Sometimes people turn to food and drink to cope with holiday stress. Melissa, how can people maintain a healthy balance with enjoying the food and drink while also maintaining good sleep, staying active, and just generally feeling healthy?
I really think it comes back to the individual and knowing what you're interested in and knowing what your own limits are, knowing what's too much for you, and also understanding that it is a time of enjoyment and a time of celebration, and there is going to be some overindulging, and being okay with that with yourself, not beating yourself up too much, and being okay with the extras during the time. Also, having somebody you can check in with, an accountability buddy, somebody that can help you keep on track if you would like to. I know sometimes for myself, having somebody to check in with, hey, can you help me? Can you remind me to get up and move also? Just making sure that staying on track.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. So Cami, if somebody is finding themselves overindulging, what supports would you recommend, or strategies would you recommend for them to get support?
Yeah, the holidays are wonderful for that reason, right? But they're also incredibly stressful. They can be very hectic and overwhelming, and that can make things go a little bit out of our control sometimes. And the best ways to address those prior to experiencing them is to stay in touch with your primary healthcare providers. Continue to attend your appointments. Even though it's a busy season, things are easy to overlook. If you have those resources, you can connect with a provider that can help refer you to more services if you need. And if that's not something that's particularly helpful to you, find a family member or a close friend, somebody who you can disclose any concerns to. And as always, if you need immediate connection to resources or you just want somebody to talk to, the Washington County Crisis Line is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, those are great tips, great thoughts. Thank you for sharing those. We were fortunate to spend some time at the Hillsborough Community Senior Center recently. We talked to about their holiday experiences. Let's hear from some of them.
It really changed 2 years ago when my wife passed away on Easter. We were married for 67 years. It's really hard to talk about it, but I have a good family, a good son and daughter. We'll be doing it at their house this time. We used to always do it at our house.
How have they changed? There have been fewer, I think, especially down here, fewer people because they are going away. So, yeah, it's changing.
My wife and I, our kids are grown, so we don't get to see them very much, but we do have a family here at the senior center. It's a safe place, and I like to spend time here at the center during my holidays.
Oh, the support is just wonderful here. And I go to grief classes here at the senior center, and that's helped me quite a bit. So we all have to reach out, and you won't realize until something happens to you, you lose a loved one, how much it means for you to connect with those people. Yeah.
These guys are really great. They are really great people. And it makes my life, I enjoy coming down here and being with them. They're my second family. It's been a lifesaver for me. It really has been a lifesaver. I don't know what I'd be like if I didn't have the center. I really don't.
It's just fun to socialize. I could not even get a night's sleep, and I come in here, I'm wide awake, and I'm trying to make other people laugh, and that makes me happy.
Coming to the senior center, you have people from every kind of religion there is, and every country. We've met so many people, and it's been wonderful. And they all have their different things that they do, and it doesn't matter, because everybody gets together and they're happy, and they don't sit home alone, which is a great thing. They can come here and be with people, and it feels like family. It's wonderful.
Thanks to our participants for sharing those stories. And thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Cammie, for being here. This was a really fun conversation, and I'm just so appreciative of you spending the time and of the work you do in our community, making it a better place. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor.
And thank you for watching. On behalf of the Age Well Washington County crew, we wish you happiness and good health this holiday season. Until next time, be well.